After that fantastic trailer for Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine the other day, and of course X-Men 97 continuing to be just so good. It is such a great time to be an X-Men fan. It's been a while for us. X-Men, back in the day, it was a shining spot of Marvel, but then everything was over at Fox, and Marvel didn't really have control. But now they're back at Marvel Studios, and better than ever. Really, I mean, it is fantastic. X-Men 97 is so good. I love it so much. And so it's no surprise that obviously Marvel Studios, they want to do a live action X-Men movie in the MCU. That's pretty obvious. I mean, we knew when the Fox merger first occurred that was inevitable, it was going to happen, but we knew it was quite a ways away because Fantastic Four is much easier to do a reboot on than X-Men. Because first of all, Fantastic Four has been rebooted multiple times, and it'd been longer since the last Fantastic Four movie. Actually, it's 10 years in between each Fantastic Four reboot. But with X-Men, obviously, our last X-Men movie was 2019, I believe, with Dark Phoenix. So it's still kind of fresh in people's minds, and it's only one universe. So it hadn't been rebooted before. So this is the first time we're rebooting the X-Men. So we knew it was going to be a while away. And obviously, while we're getting X-Men characters, like specifically Fox X-Men characters, coming back for the multiverse saga, like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, we had Kelsey Grammer Beast, and everything else that's going on in Deadpool and Wolverine, we knew that new MCU 616 X-Men, they weren't coming anytime soon. That, at least my assumption was, okay, they're probably going to wait until at least after Secret Wars, after the multiverse saga is over, because that Secret Wars and multiverse saga, we're bringing back all these Fox X-Men characters, giving us closure on that, and kind of closing the door on that, and then that allows us to then start a new saga, a new phase with new, fresh X-Men. That was my thought. That's kind of what I thought we were going with there. But it seems our X-Men movie may be coming quite a bit sooner than we had initially expected, because it's being said now that they are going to start shooting an X-Men movie next year. That's right. I'm just as surprised as you, because Production Weekly put out this little post. They updated a bunch of Marvel Studios information, and Production Weekly is something where it's 90% of the time is fully correct and accurate, because this is a source that people in the industry themselves use and rely on for information. And so, I mean, it's not always 100% accurate, especially when it comes to the synopsis and summaries of what the film is going to be about super early in development. But when it comes to actual shooting dates, that is when it's super accurate. So what it says, X-Men begins filming in Q4 of 2025. So that would be, the last couple months of 2025, which is next year in the UK. And then logline, Charles Xavier's team of merry mutants is charged with the mission of protecting a world that hates and fears them for their unusual appearances and abilities. Now, that synopsis is very basic. That's literally just like the most basic description you can get of what the X-Men are. So that most likely is just a basic placeholder for this film, similar to how last month or the month before we were talking about over on my other channel, the DC Life, the new Teen Titans movie that's in development for the DCU. There was something about that on Production Weekly, and there was a synopsis for that, but was the same exact synopsis from a comic book storyline, so we assumed it was probably just a placeholder for now. But either way, the big thing to take away from this is that an X-Men movie, a live-action MCU X-Men movie, is going to start filming next year, which is crazy. So does that mean we're getting an X-Men movie before Secret Wars? Not necessarily, because I'm assuming, or at least I think it would make sense, if they shoot Avengers 5 and 6, Kang Dynasty, or whatever they're going to end up calling it, and Secret Wars back to back, like they did with Infinity War and Endgame. That's what I think makes the most sense to me. And we know Avengers 5 is going to start shooting sometime early 2025. So X-Men could come out 2026 or 2027. We don't really know. I'm not sure. It could honestly be they could be gearing up to make it the first film right after Secret Wars, the first film of this new saga, which many have theorized will be the Mutant Saga. And so when it comes to a live action X-Men movie filming next year, obviously casting is right around the corner. You wouldn't think it would be happening right now, but technically it is possible. And that brings us to another big headline that we saw recently, coming at us from Daniel RPK, is that supposedly Marvel Studios is looking at Keke Palmer for a large role in the MCU. And Keke Palmer, great actress, big fan of her. So her joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think, is really cool. And obviously, there's tons of different characters that she could play. But when it said specifically a big role in the MCU, and just that name, Keke Palmer, a lot of people point towards X-Men. And one name that's being thrown around is Storm, just because, well, she's black, so people are like, oh, well, who else would she play? But what I think is much more likely, she wouldn't be a bad Storm, but she definitely wouldn't be my pick. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of Keke Palmer as Storm. But you know what I am a fan of that most other people are as well, but then some people aren't, is Rogue. Keke Palmer as Rogue in the MCU. Now, yes, this would be a race swap, but Rogue is one of those characters where her race really does not matter. It's not like Black Panther where has to be a specific color. Rogue can be black, white, whatever race or ethnicity. It's just what actor would be best for the role. And Keke Palmer would be a fantastic Rogue. Really, she would. I mean, she really kind of the way she talks and her personality is already very similar to Rogue. And on top of that, she herself has even shown interest in playing Rogue in the MCU. Not last year, 2022. I checked. I made a video about this on October 30th of 2022. She dressed up as Rogue for Halloween and did a photo shoot and everything and released these really cool looking promo images of her as Rogue. And she looks perfect. She looks awesome. So she wants to play Rogue. Many of us fans want her to play Rogue. Now, possibly, Marvel Studios wants her to play Rogue as well. And some of you may be thinking like, oh, but would Rogue be a big role? Personally, I think she would, because when it comes to the X-Men in the MCU, they want to try their best to differentiate from what we got with the Fox X-Men movies. And one of the ways to do that is to not have Wolverine be a big spotlight, which I think is a route they're going to take. I think they're going to focus on Cyclops being the leader and Wolverine maybe not even being in this first MCU X-Men movie, maybe joining later, maybe getting his own solo project first. But Rogue is a character that, she had a role in those Fox X-Men movies, but she really was incredibly underutilized and could be so much more in the MCU. Especially, man, we're seeing her in X-Men 97. She may possibly be my favorite X-Men character. After rewatching X-Men the animated series and seeing her role in X-Men 97, she is such a cool character. Not only is she a cool character, but she's also a tragic character as well. She's a character that has a lot of story potential and I think would be very integral to an MCU X-Men team. So I think she has to be a part of it, and Keke Palmer would be a great casting in this role. Now, of course, like I said, there's no real details on that. All Daniel RPK is just saying that, yes, Keke Palmer is being eyed for a big role in the MCU by Marvel Studios. It's not said whether it's even related to the X-Men, but that's where most people, including myself, kind of lean towards because that's kind of what makes the most sense based upon everything else that we've heard and just reactions online. And again, lining up with the fact that supposedly we're going to be shooting an X-Men movie next year, still, even if that's the case, this is a bit early to be doing casting. They just cast the Fantastic Four, and they're shooting that this summer. So I think that would be something that's kind of like, I don't know. But maybe they're just really planning ahead. And also, it's the MCU, so it's always very possible that she could pop up somewhere else earlier on, in a post-credit scene or something along those lines. Especially because we know that something they're doing with Deadpool and Wolverine, at least from rumors that we've heard, is that there's going to be multiple actors playing Wolverine variants in that movie. And if fan reaction really loves one of those actors in the role, they might become the main Wolverine. So it could be something similar where we see maybe a Keke Palmer Rogue in Deadpool and Wolverine, or some other multiverse project prior, and then if everybody really loves her, that can be like the free trial, the trial run there, and if everybody loves her, then she'll become the main MCU Rogue. What we were hoping would have happened with John Krasinski with Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness, but that didn't happen. But either way, I'm excited about this because, again, like I said, this is a great time to be an X-Men fan, and I thought we'd be waiting years to see an MCU X-Men film, but seems like it's going to be coming our way much sooner than initially expected. So, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all these updates on the X-Men in the MCU, and more specifically, Keke Palmer in the MCU? Do you think maybe they want her as Rogue, and what do you think about the idea of her as Rogue? And on top of that, if that's not the case, then who would you like to see Keke Palmer portray in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? So thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything goes on in the Marvel life.